Hi guys, Mr. Gersha here. This tutorial is going to be about creating an appropriate data table for your IB/IA samples. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be working in the practice tab from our stats assignment that we've worked on before, and we're just going to set up a basic data table. First, let me clear this so we can start fresh. And we'll take it from here. Alright, so here we have our raw data. So basically we have it already set up in a table format. But we need to add our borders. Maybe we'll manipulate some things, put in some other process data as well. And then I'll show you how to cut it and paste it into a Word document from there. So let's say, for example, these weren't here. Alright. So if I'm just going to right click those, I'm just going to delete that. So let's say you had your raw data, but you needed to add some titles to your column. Okay? So what you can do is you can highlight this row and just do the opposite as I just did. You're going to click insert and it's going to create a new row for you. Alright? So what we could add here as a little bit of a title, we could put time, that's in days. Okay? We can put plant 1 and plant 2. All right. Now, one thing that's an issue here is, let's say, for example, these numbers also were shifted over. What IB likes is they like everything centered nicely within your columns. All right. So we're just going to have everything centered. All right. Put another parenthesis there. Okay, so everything's nice and centered. And we have some titles to our columns, starting to make a little bit more sense now. The other thing we want to add here is put some nice borders around our data. All right, so here what we can do is to get a border around the entire set of raw data, as I'm going to highlight all the raw data, go up to my borders right here. All right. Click down. I'm going to put a nice thick border around the outside. So now I have a border all around the outside, and that looks lovely. So you always want to highlight the titles to your columns as well. So here, I'm going to, again, put a nice thick border around each one of my column titles. Okay? So that's good. What I'd also probably do, so these numbers just don't look like they're floating in space, is, now this is your personal preference, I think you can do it either way. Alright? I'm not a big fan of having every cell. I'm more of a fan of having just the columns highlighted. Alright, and you'll see how that appears when we cut and paste it. Alright? Somebody might want to do something like this, where you highlight all of it and where every little bit. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's acceptable as well. I'm more of a fan of just having each one just outlined. But that's me. Well, first let me take away, I'm going to put no borders for all of it. And then I'm just going to go back and put my border around each one, how I had it before. That's my personal preference. Again, either way, it should be acceptable. Okay. Oop. Just let me get back to where everything is the same. All right. So I have my basic data table here. So now what I want to do with this is not good enough for IB. One thing is we're missing our units, all right, which you can put in here as either, you can say plant 1 in centimeters, all right, plant 2 in centimeters, or you could actually even just put it in your descriptor. Either way is fine. I'll show you what I mean by our descriptor. All right, so we have our data table here. What I want to do is now I want to cut and paste this into a Word document so I can write my descriptor for it. So I highlight everything, right click, okay, we're going to copy. Now I open up a Word document earlier, okay, I'm just going to get rid of this, get rid of that, and I want to paste. Now we have many different paste options. That looks nice. There's a little bit of different format. I suggest you use the one that's got the little mountain background that says picture. And the reason is, if I paste it using that, I can manipulate the size a lot better. Alright, if you had a data tape for some reason, if you needed to rotate something, you have all these abilities to do that. So I can manipulate the size of my data table much easier using the option with the little mountains. Here we can just make sure everything is in front of text, just to format it, so we can move it around if you have any other text. Okay? So that's going to be my basic data table, and that looks good. Alright? I probably would go back. It looks like the dark border wasn't complete around it, but that's something that you can manipulate later on in Excel and then repaste it. Anyway, I just want to show you about writing a descriptor. Right? A descriptor for your data tables and graphs. Right? All data tables are listed as tables. Table 1, Table 2, Table 3, Table 4, and etc. All graphs and pictures go in as figures. So tables, I usually like to put my descriptor at the top. So here, I might do Table 1. And now what the descriptor is we're looking at our dependent variable, which was plant growth, all right, versus our independent variable, which is the number of days. All right. So basically your descriptor is just kind of just describing what this data table is all about in like a sentence type format. All right. So for example, we could put here let's say growth of plant 1 and plant 2, just correct my spelling, plant 1 and plant 2 in centimeters over a 10-day period. Alright, so one thing that we can do here is we can do our degrees of uncertainty here up in the descriptor. Or we could show our degrees of uncertainty here. Either way is fine. Alright, what I could do here is after it, so being that our data was to the nearest tenth, even though they're all perfect, whole numbers there, what we do here is, being we measure to the nearest tenth, okay, usually take the rule of thumb is half the amount of the smallest measurement. Alright, so here my uncertainty would be something like, you could do it like plus / minus 0.5 centimeters. That's my uncertainty. Alright, there's no need, if you write it in your descriptor, there's no reason to put it also here or here. As long as it's in your descriptor, your degree of uncertainty in your measurement. Alright, we'll discuss degrees of uncertainty in more detail when we get to your other IAs. So that's a basic descriptor. Now, if you were to cut and paste a graph, you could either do it on top as figure 1. Some people like to do figures below, where again you're describing. IB does not want like what you might be accustomed to, like a formal data table title. This is what they're looking for. They want their columns nice and centered. All right, data's nice and centered. Okay, you have your units, you have your degrees of precision, and you have your descriptor. All right, that's basically what they're looking for. Okay, and again, personal preference. If you want to leave the lines in, some people like to highlight, these top regions here, and maybe give them a different shade. Okay, you can move it up so it's a little bit tighter. That's the beauty of doing the cut and paste in that picture format. So I can move it closer up to my descriptor. So it's not, way down here far away looking like it's lost. All right, just a much easier way to do this. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you wanted to go back and make a separate data table for your process data, you can do that. Usually your process data is in a separate data table, and then that one would go in as, let's say, table 2. And then your descriptor would say something like process data of the growth of plant 1 and plant 2, or the means of the growth of plant 1 and plant 2. Again, always put in your degrees of error, where in this case it was plus or minus 0.5 centimeters. Okay? Hope this was helpful, and good luck on your IAs.